Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us and for sticking around on the third day. We were just talking, usually on Wednesday, about 30% of the people are gone. So it's good to see that the Zilker Ballroom was pretty full and everybody would join us today. My name is Jerry Lashley. I'm the director of the Texas Education Exchange at the Region 4 Education Service Center based in Houston, Texas. I am also proud to announce we have Amy Musgrave as the Director of Strategy and Innovation, correct? There we go, remembering the title correctly. She will co-present with me today. So today we're going to be talking about the Texas Education Exchange platform. And you're going, okay, well, I've heard about this for a while now. School districts are starting to hear about it. The vendors have certainly heard about it. Well, what it is, it's a platform, the vision I came up with years ago, and I'll tell you the personal story here in a minute. It's a platform to leverage the EdFi technologies for our school districts in all its forms. What we're envisioning for the platform is that now in the future it will be flexible for our school districts. It will be customizable for them, utilizing some market research, direct engagement from our educators and our teachers at all levels. Amy will talk to you in a minute about the market research and what we've done with that. Along with this goes that this platform, the innovative ideas of continuous market research and stakeholder engagement along the way in order to build the best product possible for our school districts. And of course, with that comes building for the future. Possibilities are endless with this platform. I used to say that years ago, talking about it, and I would just immediately lose people. The concept was too big. So we're trying to break it down into different parts that meet individual roles, and that's been able to help. So you're going, all right, Jerry, you have this Texas Education Exchange, it's starting to roll out. What gave you the idea? Well, I'm in my 16th year of public education in Texas at this point. I've had various roles in technology, operations, sys manager even. So I've seen, and now at the ESC going on year 5 at Region 4, I've seen how our schools struggle with the lack of data interoperability. So about 4 years ago, I had the idea. Region 4 is a seller of what was formerly the Texas Enterprise Information System solution, now called Ascender. So we sell and service that product. And I thought I could help out our Texas/Ascender customers in Region 4 by offering EdFi as a service. Okay, everybody thought, all right, well, what does that mean? That sounds like a good idea. Discussed that internally with a few colleagues over the months and decided that was too small. Let's open that up to every SIS provider and every LEA in Region 4, putting my entrepreneur hat on. Well, more discussions with my director of technology and cabinet and executive director at Region 4. We thought, well, what is this idea? Possibly could we make it statewide? So I picked up the phone. I was coming here to Region 13 for a meeting in Austin, and I called my good friend Sean Casey. I said, Sean, I have this idea. Do you have some time to meet with me? I want to talk about it. So we met, and over the course of a few hours and a few spaces, you know, Sean and I, we determined and we were figuring out the best way and the best path to be able to go forward to offer EdFi as a service across the state, not limited to just our Ascender or Texas customers, but to every provider. How can we do that? How can we make this happen? And I knew that the best thing to do was to have some conversations with everybody who's looking to do this. So Sean said, well, the best thing to do is come to EdFi Summit. So I attended my first EdFi Summit 4 years ago. And during that time period, the 2 months leading up to that, I had been working with Tara Anderson and the team at Amazon Web Services as well, looking at our hosting options. And I arrived at Summit, and both Tara and Sean were both saying, well, we need to introduce you to this group out of Michigan, and Don Daly, and the Michigan Data Hub group. So met with Don and the team, along with AWS and Sean and other members of the Alliance during that summit 4 years ago. And shortly thereafter, about 3 weeks after, I was on the plane with my director of technology flying to Michigan, Kalamazoo at KRESA. We spent 2.5 days fully on site with them from morning through lunch and dinners, discussing what they were doing, their lessons learned, how did they handle communication, how did they get buy-in. Since at that point, I believe it was year 6 for the Michigan Data Hub. So I came back home refreshed and renewed, and I said, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to make this happen for the state of Texas. So having the backing of Leary and Sylvia at the foundation, and of course Sean and the other members in the Alliance, Amazon Web Services, it's like, how am I going to make this happen? So that leads me to what we've been talking about the last couple of days, that you keep hearing community and partnership. So for going on 4 years now, that's what I've been developing. We're just getting ready to start launching this out for our betas for the platform itself. But I knew in order to make this successful, I needed to get everybody on board possible in order to make it as successful as possible for our school districts. So I started talking to some of the other education service centers in the state, primarily the larger ones. I've got Region 10. There's members of the Region 10 team here that are with us now from Dallas. Region 11 is Fort Worth. Region 13, Michael Ferris is here. And Region 20 in San Antonio, which is the headquarters for the Texas Computer Cooperative and the Ascender product. So the 5 of us have been primarily looking for EdFi solutions and developing EdFi products for our school districts because they've been asking for it. So for the collaborative, the 5 of us, that's extended through the end of the grant period, which is August of 2024. The 5 of us are going to work together and build the product. We're working with our beta school districts, and we're going to develop everything and the resources that are needed for it. So that's that first component of the collaborative of the community. And then there's a second component. I've already mentioned the EdFi Alliance. Larry is here for the foundation. And I've been talking over the years with other members and officers of the Gates Foundation as well with use cases and applications and products that they've been building. And then last but not least, I need to recognize the Texas Education Agency. They have been a tremendous partner with us because over the years in meeting with Michigan and others, I've also been connected with the Double Line Partners team that is a strong strategic partner for us for the technical solution. And TEA got wind about a year and a half ago that I was looking to do this. And of course, as you know, they're working on their modernization efforts right now. So it was a natural fit that we put our heads together, and that's what we've been doing for the last years. TEA has funded Region 4 and the collaborative with a substantial grant to essentially seed funding, startup funding, to build this ed tech company as a product for our school districts. So, Amy?
Thank you, Jerry. I'm not sure that I actually knew that story in that much detail, so I'm glad I'm here this morning for multiple reasons. So Amy Musgrave, Director of Strategy and Innovation. I've been with the TEA for about a year and a half now. I have a product management background. I'll kind of tell that story from the TEA side. So when I joined, my brilliant boss, who just had a baby, so is not here, had been sort of canvassing. She'd been given, and we're on the program side within TEA, she'd been given the go-do to figure out, coming out of COVID, I think a lot of you heard Melody describe the deployment of 4+ million devices to Texas students. We kind of got everybody online pretty quickly. And so out of that, an explosion of data, kind of like, what do we do with that now? We were asking ourselves the question, like, what role should TEA play in that kind of data enablement for districts? So Robin went out and talked to like a gajillion people, as far as I can tell, and in all that, investigation, came across Jerry. The clear feedback it was pretty resounding from everybody that she was talking to across different types of educators was this data interoperability challenge that everybody's facing. So Robin, Jerry connected. Robin made the case within the TEA to substantially fund this effort that Jerry and the collaborative had been working so hard to get off the ground for such a long period of time. And we were off and running. And so definitely, as TEA was kind of considering, like, what role does the agency play? The agency is not necessarily equipped to, administer programs like this out to the number of districts that need to be supported. And we've got this fabulous regional structure that has existed for, decades now in Texas. And so increasingly, the TEA is looking to, lean into partnering with that kind of whole setup. And doing what we can to further enable the regional service center community. So it was in that spirit that it made sense for the agency to go ahead and fund the effort. But I would also point out that we undertook that partnership in a little bit different way than what the TEA normally does. It's normally like, here's your money, go off and do your thing. What we have done for this effort, because we recognized that it was going to be difficult, complex, need to happen quickly because it is ESSER funded, we said, hey, let's actually roll up our sleeves and partner on this thing. So Robin actually hired a cross-functional team that included me with a product management background. We've got technical expertise with Katie. We've got some fantastic analytical capabilities, additional product management. and then user experience expertise with Devin, who I know a lot of you have met. And so we said, we're actually going to actively partner on this. So that's a little bit different than, what we have historically done. It may be a closer partnership than it sometimes Jerry wants, but I think we're having a good time so far with this. So that's kind of the nature of the partnership. One of the things that, I started asking questions when I first came on board, I was like, okay, well, what research has been done around this? I need user research if I'm going to build a product, right? And there was a lot of anecdotal research that had been gathered, over the years. There were other fabulous efforts that had been in existence, like Michigan. We came across the New Caney effort, and so there's been a lot of efforts out there that we've been able to mine the experience from. But I said, what? While we're letting this funding kind of wind its way through the system and getting this thing set up, why wouldn't we also invest in a pretty substantial market research effort? So we used the agency's disaster procurement process to actually issue an RFP in December, got that out, awarded the business to Resultant, who've been a great partner. They got the effort up and running and executed market research by June, had the analysis done by July. So that all happened in agency terms super quickly, as I understand it. And that research effort included going out and really just asking districts, what would make sense for us to build for the exchange? What use cases do you want to see? And because this is something that needs to be self-sustaining, as the service centers have to be past this grant period, we wanted to understand also, and by the way, what value does it have to you? What would you be willing to pay for it? So the research effort included a lot of focus groups, a lot of qualitative information gathering that then informed a survey that Resultant and TEA administered to about 20,000 educators across the state of Texas. We got over 1,000 responses back, which, as I understand it, is a really good response rate. And that was across 370 districts. So a legit quantitative gathering of data. And we did get a pretty good sense of, there was sort of a pretty clear consensus on the different types of use cases that educators wanted to see. We were also able to get that information kind of sliced and diced by the different types of users, technologists, district leadership, teachers. We actually had a lot of responses from teachers. And the types of districts, rural versus urban, and things like that. So we really wanted to understand kind of the anatomy of the market and what that looked like. We can go on. And so this is like the Captain Obvious slide, I think, of the whole summit, which is that the data resides at different places, and it's really difficult to assemble it and make sense of it, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of effort. I would also add that it doesn't happen on a timely basis, which to me has been like one of my biggest takeaways, is that if the information isn't timely, it's really not useful. So this was a big takeaway, I think, from the research. And then another thing that we wanted to look at, I'm going to go to the next slide, is, again, just more like the lived experiences of educators and the situations that they were experiencing currently from a more kind of qualitative, nuanced standpoint, and the challenge that the exchange was going to face in terms of the change management that was going to be required. So we've got, this persona. We've got Leo, who's a highly involved director of technology from a district with limited resources, and he has been giving teachers and other educators packets, like physical packets with assessment data, and these are actual stories that we heard. And so what would it look like to be working with Leo to enable him to have access and be able to give all of the educators that he serves a login and have them be able to access that information online and in a timely manner, and what needed to happen to actually get to that end result. So that was the approach that we took. I think this is you from here, right? Back to Jerry.
Thank you, Amy. So along with this market research, we got actually a lot of information back. As Amy said, there was anecdotal information. We have an idea, especially with the ESCs working so closely with our customer LEAs. We know what their issues are, but it's different to see it and format it as far as priority goes. So as we start to build out and have our beta for the Texas Education Exchange platform, these are the 4 things that we have heard most from our school districts that we wanted to address immediately. Number 1 thing from teachers and our educators, one place that they can go to for that information. They want to go on screen immediately to start off with and get as much information about a student at their classroom that they can, and then they can use that screen to go elsewhere. But they didn't want to start out having to go to 4 or 5 different screens to find information for one student. Roster synchronization. We were a little surprised by getting this feedback from our educators with the survey data. And we know that's an issue for them predominantly, or a primary issue for them, that they try to log into their disparate systems and the data is not up to date or rosters didn't work properly. So that is a core functionality that we're going to include in the Exchange platform for our customer districts. The next thing that we're going to include is an ODS, or Operational Data Store, health check. So we know that this is an issue with inaccurate data that's coming along with different systems, but primarily this is for the state reporting, for our PEMS coordinator and our data staff. That whenever it comes time for their submissions, they may not realize they'll get back a special warning or a fatal when they're submitting something, but it doesn't tell them if they haven't submitted data. So this idea is that they can run a weekly report or a daily report if they prefer, and this ODS health check will tell them, all right, this is all your data that was loaded into the ODS. And then they can see, well, I don't see this SPED or 504 information in here. Let's find out what the problem is. DoubleLine is working on that use case for us. And then the 4th thing that is going to be included as a base component of the platform is portable student records. There are other states that are looking at this option. Michigan calls it a student snack pack. And the reason for that is and I wanted to make this a priority. We saw it in the survey feedback, but I wanted to make it a priority because I know our registrars and our attendance clerks, those who have a student transferring in, that student can sometimes go 3 to 4 weeks without getting the needed services. And the reason for that is the process is the receiving district or the student that transfers into that campus submits a request formally through the Texas Record Exchange, and the school the student came from has up to 10 days to respond to that. And unfortunately, we already know that due to how busy their jobs are, they tend to wait till the last minute to do that. So that means that student could be at District B that they went to and they're not getting the services. So the idea is that we create a standard report, a basic report, that when the student comes over, they could submit a request in the system that would go to the other school district, and then they would say, yep, that was our student, and they click that they affirm and they accept, and then that would release the records over on the opposite side. So then they still submit the formal request for all the records to the Record Exchange, but through this path with PSR, they would have a basic set of information that includes 504, special education, ELL, other services that the student would need immediately to start providing services while they wait for the paperwork to come in. Also from the market research, we heard some factors that would limit adoption rates or would cause people, as Amy mentioned, the change management. What are the issues that they perceive that they won't want to use the exchange or switch over? And first and foremost is clear communication. Imagine that one. Them not understanding what the platform does. We've realized that over the last few months that everybody wants everything broken down to the basics. Something I had a request of me a few weeks ago was, Jerry, please explain it to me like I'm in the 3rd grade. And once I did that, she understood immediately, and everybody in the room did, actually. So we have partnered with Collaborative Communications, a professional team out of Washington, D.C. We got their information through Education Analytics, and they were also working with DoubleLine for us on that. And the next 2 bullets kind of go together, a quality training experience and data literacy. We need to make sure that our teachers, our educators, know how to use the product in and out, in all facets. How to run the reports, where to find the data, where do they get the information they need, and then beyond that, what does the data mean? How do we use it? How do I support my students with the data that's been provided to us? So those are some of the things that we're aware of as we're starting to roll out the platform and working with our beta districts. Now this slide here, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. Everyone in this room knows all the state agencies. This is, of course, not an exhaustive list of those that are working to do these things. But another key tenet that I would like to do with the exchange is to really increase our interstate cooperation and our collaboration. We've talked a lot about community. We're talking about the community within the state of Texas for the exchange, but also working with other state agencies. So we're really clear. They know what our use cases, our applications, what our needs are in Texas that we're building for. So if we build something out, we can put it back in the community and other states could then use it. It could also be that we meet and here's a list of priority use cases that the exchange wants to work on, and Michigan says, hey, our districts need that too. Why don't we take on that development? And Florida Code says, oh yeah, well we like that one over there, we'll take the fourth one. And then once everybody builds up the use cases, then we can then share them around and it would be in everybody's state's platform. So Amy talked about TEA. As most people in the room know, TEA itself, the agency, is going through its own modernization with the latest Ed5 version. And on the screen, we have some examples of some of our larger SIS providers in the state as far as percentage goes. And then you'll see the cylinders of the ODSs. So not to get real technical in here, what is going to happen is our school districts, the SIS providers, TEA, and we're also in the exchange working with the SIS providers. They will be loading the data on at least a daily basis, looking for Watt or other central IT team members in here. At least once a day, that data is going to go into that ODS that's built for the school for state reporting purposes. That ODS is also available for local use, or if a service provider such as an ESC with the exchange can leverage that platform, that architecture, to provide additional services and support. So the idea is that one central location, that single source of truth for all SIS data that's automatically going in there on a daily basis can be leveraged for our use and for the district. What this means for the exchanges is all the other platforms, LMS providers, assessment providers, transportation, child nutrition, all the other systems that a school uses on a daily basis, that information can also be leveraged via API and utilize the architecture and the ODS structure. So I've already mentioned one of the key tenets of collaboration and community. These are really the core four things that I wanted to do with the platform. The ESC structure, for those who don't know, there's 20 ESCs in the state of Texas, and we are the primary go-to for our LEAs. They come to us for training, support, services, technology, teacher certification, bus driver certification, assistance with child nutrition, the works. They're used to coming to us for just about everything, for TSDS team support, for all the submissions. They know us close, they know all our names, they know who to call whenever they need help with anything. So the idea is that the exchange, the ESCs, would provide that direct implementation support. When an LEA comes on, we will make sure and take care of the implementation for them. Texas, like most states, primarily rural school districts, smaller. They wear many hats, they don't have the expertise. So if they sign on with the exchange, we take care of the implementation for them. They go, all right, this is all of our source systems. That's where the vendor integration part comes in. We will leverage our economies of scale with all 20 ESCs and the exchange platform. We'll work directly with the vendors on behalf of the school district, so they do not have to constantly pick up the phone and say, why doesn't this work, and why doesn't this work, and can we add this, can we add that? Then the third thing, of course, is an app marketplace. The idea behind this is that the exchange would have basically an app store on our website and in the online community, which I'll talk about in a little bit. So the school district can see all the different applications and resources and products that are available already on the platform. And this is also a place where ESCs with their own developed products can then sell it as a premium application via the exchange. Example is Region 10 CCMR Insights tool, which is going fully live this fall. And then the community building platform. I envision that every school or every end user would have that dashboard that they go to. And in part of that would be an online community where they can go for training, they can go for support, and attendance clerk can talk with other attendance clerks in the state. Or an instructional leader, an assistant principal of discipline can then go on, create a almost like social media, they would create a comment and then other people can comment on it and they can develop groups. So that we see that as a way for them to develop the community amongst themselves to better enhance the product. They can give feedback, they can talk about their different needs. All right, well, everybody, we're using this, but we wish it did that. So then that gives us feedback on how to better enhance the product as well. And this is our high-level architecture, going back to explain it like it's a third grader. So we wanted to simplify it as much as possible. We don't have TEA's process on here because we've seen that tends to confuse people when we talk about the two. But in that second column, you'll see that orange cylinder, that's the IODS, or Individual Operational Data Store. That is what TEA is creating for every LEA and ESC in the state for state reporting purposes. A couple of slides before, I mentioned that data is going to be going on a daily basis. For the exchange purposes, on the far left cylinder, it's the SIS systems. It's other vendors that can connect via API to that ODS. So it's an EDFI API or one roster is a way to get information in freely. And then other sources that do not have the APIs in place at this time, we'll start working with them to get them EDFI certified. That data would go directly into the data warehouse for downstream use. BI, visualizations, reporting, other analytics. So the exchange is going to offer data warehouse EDFI as a service, integration as a service, data warehousing as a service, and BI and visualizations as a service as part of that core platform. I've also mentioned other systems like CCMR Insights. If they have an API, they can extract data and they can pull data directly from that ODS as well for their consumption. If a school has other third-party systems, then that's where they would take access for their data from the data warehouse. That's where they would get their access from. I see a few products up here with Education Analytics name on there. I want to give them a shout out. Education Analytics, Andrew Rice and Noah Bookman. They are our managed services provider for the grant period, so they've offered us a lot of assistance and help and support with us. The award-winning stadium, yes. So for the vendors in the room, I've already mentioned that the exchange as a service, we would work directly with the vendors, with the vendor integration in the process. Well, as you can imagine, with the single source of truth with these individual ODSs, all the data going in there, you now have access to more data, more accurate data, and near real time for your own use, so you can enhance your own products. There's a potential for combined marketing. There could be strategic partners that the exchange would work with. It could be a dashboarding system. It could be, just about anything that you could look at. So there could be opportunities for co-marketing, co-branding, revenue shares, things of that nature. Those are ideas that have been thrown out there. And then, of course, with this whole system, with the platform itself, it offers for more efficient integration. It's easier for the school districts when it comes to reporting time. It takes the load off of a school district trying to create their own things that they just want to use the data and the analytics for their own purposes rather than spending most of their time trying to build the things themselves. Now, there's, on the prior slide actually, I'll mention this. Standards and alignment. Something with the exchange, we're going to publish the minimum technical standards or requirements in order for a vendor to connect to the platform. Along with that goes cybersecurity efforts. This is a big topic for all of us, not only at the ESCs, at the agency. Commissioner Morath has had a lot of input on this and wanted to see this as a core portion or what we're doing as part of the vision with the exchange. So cybersecurity efforts, those minimum technical standards, there will be minimum security and cybersecurity standards that a vendor will have to meet at the state in order to be interoperable with the platform, if that makes sense. So what that looks like, we're not sure yet. We're working on that right now. And once we have the technical and cyber and security requirements, we'll have all of that out. Something to note here on the second bullet for those that are school districts in here, the data that's in the individual operational data store, that IODS, that's your data. You control your data. It's your data, you own it. TEA doesn't have access to that data unless you give them explicit written permission. Same thing for the ESCs. In order to support you with your data and analytics that you have in your IODS, there will be a written contract between the ESCs and your LEA in order for them to pull that data to provide you direct support, if that makes sense. So just because it's in there doesn't mean we can go in at any time and start running reports and looking at student data or staff data. So we want to make sure that everybody's clear on this, on the safety of the data itself. want to talk about this?
So just kind of bringing it around full circle, and I think Jerry had described this use case in the sort of list that made the cut for the highest priority use cases. But circling back around to our pal Leo, the ability to provide him with this kind of single pane, holy grail view of student programs and services, and enable his educators, whether those are administrators or teachers, take care of his frustrations, allow him to get accomplished what he wants to get accomplished, and enable the educators that he supports in the way that he wants to support them. So just kind of closing the loop on this whole concept of we can build all of the technical aspects of the platform, but really central to this effort is a user-centric focus and human-centered design, and making sure that this thing actually is useful to the folks that it's being built for.
So next steps, you're wondering, all right, this is great, you had this vision, you're starting this path, where are we going? So we're currently working with, we have 6 districts that have signed up, they've signed the letter of intent that they wanted to participate in our beta. We're looking for a total of 10 to 12 for this fall and winter to start working through primarily the SIS data, the TSDS data. What we're doing for the beta year through August of next year is Region 4 is going to host the betas and with the mirrored ODSs. So we're setting up our ODSs on AWS that are the exact copy of what TEA would be using. So there's no differences in that, along with that partnership and working very closely with the TSDS team. So we've got the 6 now, we're going to add another 4 to 6. We want to have representation of all of the major SIS providers in the state. So Ascender, PowerSchool, Skyward, and Frontline are the ones primarily that we're looking at for now. Then as we build all this up, in fact, tomorrow morning there is 3 bid openings for 3 large RFQs. I'm sure a number of vendors in this room have responded to that, so they're looking forward to this. We're going to start developing the dashboards and those core use cases, the PSR and the other use cases we mentioned earlier, to start testing that here by winter. So January, February is when those contracts will start. Then we'll open it up, expanded later in the spring, probably March or April, to another 40 or 50 school districts to sign on to the beta is what we're looking at. And then by next fall, September, it's going to be open up for anyone. We'll be ready to go. I know that's a very aggressive timeline, but we have a lot of resources at our hand. And I've mentioned community and building these relationships along the way. There's a lot of power, not only in the state of Texas, but across the country of organizations looking and wanting to help to make this successful. So given the funding and the organizations involved, we know that we can get there. And then by fall 2024, when the grant expires, that's when districts will start having to pay for the core services. And for the school districts in here, they're like, well, great, that's another thing we have to pay for. But the idea is that since we've been utilizing the market research along the way, we know what the big priority items and how the dashboards, visualizations, we know specifically what the Texas market wants. And that's what we're building. The idea is that it would replace something that they might already be paying for. So that's where the value comes in, along with all the other additional core pieces and functionality of the use cases that'll exist. Innovation Texas style. This is where they wanted me to dress up and do little cheerleader stuff. That's not really Jerry, for those who know me. But to cover the key points with this, having a safe platform, an efficient platform, timely access to relevant data that's near real time, allowing for teachers and educators to get a snapshot of the students. We're also going to be looking at long strategic plan resources for students and parents as well. But the true vision of what we're keeping our eyes and focus on, and that's what we're looking for all of our vendors and all of our partners as we move along, is positive impact on student outcomes. In the end, that is what this is all about. That's what we're all in this room for. It's for our students. It's for our children. It's to make our educators' lives easier. Their lives are hard enough. So that's what we're here for. So that's a clear message I want to get across to everyone as we start talking over the next year, is that's what we're really looking for, is everybody to keep their eyes on the positive outcomes for students. Okay. And now we'll open it up for questions. There's probably a lot. Or maybe there's not. So the question is, and starting in September 2024, we'll start charging for the exchange. Do we have an idea of the cost? The market analysis tells us what districts are willing to pay for. That may not be where it ends up, I can tell you that. We know resources are already tight at our school districts, in particular the rural and smaller districts. We should have a better idea by late summer of next year. My plan is by June or July at the latest to have an idea of what we'll be charging as the core package. What we're looking at doing is also after the grant period ends, all 20 service centers, so we have the 5 in the collaborative now, so the remaining 15 service centers, ESCs, will be able to start reselling this and providing the services themselves. So the licensing fee would be a core cost for operating and the overhead that's needed for the exchange itself, and then the services and support model, that's your local ESC would then charge you that. Does that make sense? But we're really being cognizant about, that's also, I think, a little bit of difference. ESCs are quasi-governmental, we're nonprofit agencies, so we're mindful of what LEAs are already paying for, so we're going to try to keep the cost as low as possible. And ongoing research.
The regional service centers, there's an ongoing effort to get feedback from the service centers themselves who know what the districts can pay for and what business model is supportable. So ongoing research for sure.
Other questions?
Okay, so I focus group on Texas School District. The portable student records need to be free because that's already part of TREC. So if TA is going to use the power of EdFi to expand on what we can do with TRECs, then that needs to be free. Every district needs that, and so hopefully that's not going to be a charge. My other thought is, has there been any work or any opportunity to partner with our vendors? So for me, EdFi will make data that's available in silos right now, available in systems that we're already using that we might need it. So for example, in Eduphoria, if I wanted to see grades or attendance while I'm looking at test data, EdFi will make that possible. So the sweet spot for us in Texas with service centers is when we use service center support for a vendor product like Eduphoria, SchoolWires, Skyward. So has there been any investment in our Texas-specific vendors like Eduphoria and on Data Suite with some of this grant money?
That is a very good question and a relevant one. So we are primarily with the beta working with the SIS providers right now, but we're starting to line up conversations with our next round. So our business ERP solution providers, LMS providers, and everybody knew ahead of time prioritizing those specific products that are Texas-based, as you said. So DMAC out of Region 7, I've had several conversations with them. We've had, in fact, talked Monday, I believe it was, or last Friday, about utilizing grant funds to work with DMAC to get them fully integrated. Or it could be that the foundation helps, as I smile at Lyria. Same thing with Eduphoria. So looking at the business models at ESCs, they're resellers of DMAC and Eduphoria. We don't resell on Data Suite, but we have a partnership with Paul and the team at on Data Suite. So they will be connected, and in fact, I keep mentioning to Amy, we need to meet with Paul Pulasic at On Data Suite to see what he's doing and where he is with his EdFi API, because I know he was going to develop one for this. So, does that help? Did that answer everything? To work, right? That's the idea. And because these are ESC-based services in many respects, that's where the priority is going to be on. And in fact, that's been their concern. Well, Jerry, you're building this. Does that mean DMAC's going away? If anything, it'll enhance DMAC and make DMAC better. Okay. What other questions do we have? And yes, we will work with all the vendors. We have a listing of, particularly for the Ascender product, but we can get those for the other SIS providers, of all the other source systems that are integrated with them. So we already know that 19 of the 20 service centers use product X, and 17 of them use this and support it. So we'll start working on integrating them as we're getting the pilots up board.
Oh, this is Austin ISD. We're starting our journey down this path with EdFi and ODS and all this wonderful work that you're talking about here. My question is, at the end of your beta program, one, how do we sign up? But two, specifically, are there going to be any kind of outcomes, white papers, tech docs that other districts can start looking on as they're onboarding their own Ed5 solutions? And then at that point, if we had our own solution, how do we become part of this collaborative in the future if we decide to?
Thank you for the question. And in fact, Austin ISD attended one of our information sessions a few weeks ago, and I know some other members of the team there are interested in it, in using Frontline, so we know we need a Frontline district as well as part of the beta. So if you're interested in that, my contact information's there. We can set up an individual meeting with you and talk one-on-one about what the beta looks like and how we're going to handle the process. Education Analytics leads that for us. So we're more than willing to meet with you and talk to you about signing up for it's just essentially your superintendent signs a letter of interest, and then we set up a plan of getting you connected for your SIS, and then we look at your other source systems. And yes, we know that there will be white papers and other documentation that will come out and available to the community to help everybody grow. I mean, our focus is Texas, but we know enhancing Texas, but we know that other states are going to be interested in what we're developing as well.
Hi, I'm here from Oregon. I feel like I'm kind of interloping in a Texas session, but we have a team in Oregon that is working on similar projects, and Makoa Jacobson, one of my partners in crime, is in the back of the room. We have a demo that we did in another session earlier this week of student records exchange. So I think we would love to talk to you. We need to talk. I heard you say Skyward. I heard you say a few other things. I want to ask a question about going back to one of those beginning slides and your market research and the focus groups. Did you include ERPs, SISs, and a broad suite of products in the market research, or was it really focused on like teacher and educator need around the data in the classroom for instruction?
I will do my best to answer. Amy will probably do it better than I will. It was primarily on the LEA focused and what their needs were with data, how they use data, how they get data, and what are they missing? What would they like to see, and how could they better and more efficiently use data? We are doing market research, extended market research with LEAs, and we've started the market research with our ESCs, because we know as we build these use cases that LEAs want. We look at accountability, for instance. Well, ESCs support school districts on their accountability. So it's logical that the use case and the functionality that an LEA needs to see could be expanded for an ESC to see. So if there's an early warning intervention system, that campus will see it, that assistant principal would see that warning, but also if they're allowed to see the data, then the ESC would see that in real time and pick up the phone or send an email and say, hey, I saw there's a few indicators here that we really need to pay attention to. What support can we provide you? And then it's in real time. It's not 2 years later, which is usually what happens. So, but yes, I saw your student records, and I texted Noah and I said we need to connect with them. So.
Yeah, and to your question about vendors, I think we're kind of just now beginning that data collection, and so we're actually arms linked in the middle of an effort to issue a great big request for information from the whole vendor community, so that we can kind of collect that input from them, figure out what that looks like, and build a framework out of it for how we work with vendors. So yeah, absolutely beginning that now.
Would it make sense to make, just a quick question, would it make sense to make that information public, the market research questions and whatever results are?
We will make it public because it's paid for with state dollars. So far, well, partly public now. In fact, on Region 4's website, we have what we call our microsite now, and there's some summary reports in there from the work that Resultant did. And like as I said, it's public dollars that are paying for that. So once we get the summary reports, we'll put them on Region 4's website, and probably in about 3 or 4 weeks, we should have our external Texas Education Exchange website up and running. Yep. And I just realized I didn't address the make it for free on the portable student records. We've had that discussion. We've actually talked about that's a component that would be for free. The catch is both districts have to be on the exchange in order for it to work. But we talked about that could be a way to get school districts in to entice them. This is your free trial. You can use portable student records, but this is your free trial. For the next 30 days, you can try out this other suite of resources and go from there. So, other questions? We had someone over here. My friends at New Caney, do y'all have any questions? Yes. Not now? Okay. Yes. Other questions? It could be concerns. Are there any concerns that are in the room? Because those are things we're looking to address for our, as I said, we're here for our students. We're here for our districts. We're at time? Okay. We're over by a few minutes. So again, thank you very much. You have my contact information. Please reach out to me. Information, 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 please reach